A very warm good morning to everybody. Today we are going to discuss one another article that has appeared on the Kathmandu Post. This is the date. Now let's move on to the article. Here is our article. It says Nepal clears way for E10 petrol blend, eyes Rs 6 billion yearly savings. This article is essentially talking about uh, ethanol procurement. Okay, ethanol blend petrol procurement in Nepal itself. Let me tell you what is ethanol and how it is made. Ethanol is a kind of alcohol which is made from molasses, sugarcane, maize cobs, rice, wheat, so on and so forth. These biomass are used to make or to produce ethanol. Okay, and ethanol, mind you, is a highly inflammable liquid. If you spark it, it will burn suddenly, but it has a bane as well. That is, it doesn't have so much of density as compared to the petrol has a huge density. When it goes into the engines, it produces torques. It goes into it and then it blasts. But when it comes to ethanol, it doesn't have such kind of density, so it goes into but it still burns, but it doesn't consist of such kind of blasting capacity. But mixing 10%, blending 10% is fair enough. Let me first tell you what is the meaning of E10. Okay, what is the meaning of E10? Sometimes you find E20, sometimes you find E5 as well. It means ethanol has been blend with petrol 10%. If it is 10, or if it is 20, then ethanol is blend with petrol 20%. Okay, so this is the terminology. Now, so many countries in the world, like India, the United States, Thailand, Brazil, they are experiencing it, or they are doing such kind of activities for decades altogether. In India, when India started adulterating the petrol with ethanol, or blending petrol with ethanol, it started with a small percentage, 1%, 2%, something like that. Over time it grew its percentage, and now it is blending 20% ethanol with petrol altogether. Okay, so many critics in India has raised questions. They cite that those ethanol blend petrol are not providing mileage. Okay, and very often the the motorcycle cars, they have to visit the local pumps, means petrol pumps. Okay, and also they have to visit workshops as well, because engines are destroying, engines are being deteriorated by this kind of adulterated petrol. Okay, so critics cites this kind of concerns. But when it comes to the supporter heavily rely on the, you know, in the thing, in the matter that if 20% is mixed, and we are not going to procure 20% petrol from the other countries, because these petrochemicals are not our own products, it is from outside, means like Saudi and some other Gulf countries. We are importing from those countries, so our economics are being saved, and those amounts, those rupees can be invested somewhere else. Okay, so these are the supporters concerns, means supporters answer. And in terms of Brazil is also doing such kind of thing. But when critics cites about Brazil, they cites that Brazil have such kind of wherewithal to produce ethanol. Okay, but India doesn't. Such kind of uh, questions are there. Look at this one. A decade after India began ethanol mixing, Nepal officials have moved forward amid concerns over food security and engine performance. Look at this. Now, it this line itself is talking about India started adulterating or blending ethanol with petrol a decades ago. Okay, and Nepal is still mulling on it, or still planning on it, how to do and what if doing this is good or not. But food security, okay, so many critics in Nepal, they have often cited the reason that food security will be harmed. Okay, will face a challenge if ethanol is built, because Nepal is not able to produce enough food grains for its own citizens. We have to import from other countries like India, China, the United States. Okay, so if rice are used, grains are used, and so many other biomasses are used to make ethanol, then what people will eat? This is the concern. This article doesn't stop here only. It also runs into fifth page as well. Let me show you the fifth page. Here it is. You can see the picture where so many sugar cans are laden on the trailer. I don't know what is it. So, and cows are there. So these sugar cans are there only for producing sugar, and those, when sugars are produced, and there must be some relic, and that those relics are known as molasses. They are very often they are left on the field without doing anything, or they are destroyed. But if the ethanol started being produced, then those are used. Those are the cornerstone of molasses, of ethanol. Okay, now look at here. According to Agrawal, 12 sugar mills could produce up to 3 lakh 60,000 liters of ethanol daily, 20,000 to 30,000 liters per mill, if sufficient raw materials are available. Okay, this man, this Agrawal, he must be some person related to industry. He is saying 12 sugar mills could produce 3 lakh 60,000 liters of ethanol daily. Okay, such kind of capacity those mills have, 20 to 30 liters ethanol per mill. Okay, which would amount 3% of total ethanol. Okay, which, and still we have to procure 7%, because we in total have to mix or blend 10% with our petrols. Okay, so 3% are there already. When it comes to rest of 7%, for that some other distilleries industries must be allocated, or must be built. New industries also required so many investments. Here you can see new new industries would require 7,050 million of rupees. Okay, for new installation. And if the older industry are renewed, or they are maintained and repaired again, then it takes 250 millions rupees. So government would have to decide what would be the straightforward, what would be the feasible way to procure 10% of you know ethanol. Now let me tell you, in India, so many critics, as I told you, so many critics cite so many regions. In India, there is a village called Hanuman Nagar. Okay, it is in Rajasthan. There was a industry in construction. Okay, that industry was in construction, but the locals started agitating against those industries, because they thought that ethanol is not good for their vehicles, for their transportation services. Okay, and that eventually resulted in uh, in fight between the police and the villagers, the local villagers there. So they got some injuries. Okay, so such kind of examples are also there. But I would say it is a great you know it is a great thing to experience. Carbon monoxide will be decreased drastically because in Kathmandu, which falls under top 5 highly polluted cities in the world, carbon monoxide will be reduced drastically because the only one uh, means of carbon monoxide is transportation in Kathmandu. Okay, so carbon monoxide will decrease, and that eventually amounting to uh, amounting in contribution to the reduction in greenhouse gases, and they will eventually support a climate, our forests in a better way. Okay, so researchers sometimes said, and they say as well, it ethanol reduce greenhouse gases, the emission, the contaminated air will be decreased, air will be fresh, air will remain fresh. Okay, but some other researchers they say that it has a great potential to emit more and more emission. Okay, here the study suggest farming and processing food crops for ethanol may increase emission. Farming and processing food crops for ethanol making would amount emission in large numbers. Okay, so some critics say also this, but government is denying, or government is restricting from saying anything which is erroneous to the people. They say that we are not going to use, Miss Nepal will not going to use any food grains or any crops to use to make ethanol. Only the relic, only the biomasses are used, or the those biomasses which are left in the field without working upon. Okay, or without doing anything to, they are used to make ethanols. Okay, and that would be a great sign for sugarcane farmers, because initially sugarcane farmers were selling their sugarcane only the purpose of making sugar, right? But now they can even sell it to make ethanol as well. First of all, it goes to produce sugar, and the relic would be there, and then the relic will be taken by those industries, those distillery industries, and they will make ethanol from that molasses. So sugar cane price will be increased, and eventually a leading farmer happy. Okay, the sugar cane farmer happy. Now I have told almost everything. Here consumer president is also saying that also is an important thing to look at this. Mm, consumer right, president of consumer right, he is saying that he is saying that here you can look, there must be no companies, sorry, there must be no compromise on fuel quality after ethanol blending. Okay, there must not be fuel compromising after ethanol blending. What mechanism will ensure and monitor purity above 99.9%? How will this affect vehicle mileage? So consumers president is uh, saying all these concern, they are asking all these questions, or all these questions from the police, from the police, from the authorities, related concerned authorities. Okay, and the government is saying the price will be determined by the cabinet, where so many stakeholders should be involved. Okay, and the molasses, sorry, the ethanols would be exclusively sold to the Nepal Oil Corporation only, and not for any other purposes, because it can be used in some other purposes as well. People can make alcohol and they start to drink. Okay, they can, and it can also be used for bootlegging. Okay, counterfeiting. So such kind of practices can also happen, but the government is warning that all these molasses would be only sold to the Nepal Oil Corporation exclusively, and not to any other companies or any other private stakeholders. So this article is all about this explanation. In conclusion, I would say it would be a great phenomenon. It would be a great change in Nepal, because Nepal is finally going to reduce its procurement, reduce its imports of oil, and they are started going to blend ethanol which are built in Nepal itself and not going to procure from other countries. Nepal will build Nepal will make ethanol, and then uh, it blend with petrol, gasolines. Okay, so this is a great step. So thank you guys, and thank you for listening. So I hope you have understood all these things, and thank you. Bye.